Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Duckpin TV's coverage of the 93rd Annual Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. We are coming to you live from Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. I'm Brian Ewing, joined today by Pat Rufo. Also joined by statistician Chris Gano this morning. If you're new to the Eastern Classic, welcome. This is a 12-game event. Bowlers bowl their 12 games in 2 blocks of 6 games each. We're coming to you this Sunday morning, bringing you Block 2 of Group 1. As you see on your screen here, our leaderboard shows you the top 20 bowlers based on average. The man of the moment is Chris Louth. He rolled 921 yesterday for an average of 153.5 for his 6 games. So we'll be tracking him this morning. The bowler started just a little bit before 9:30, so they're already a few frames in. Chris Louth, he's just shown up on our screen there. He's in the gray shirt on the left lane. He has 36 through 3 frames. Gets the roll, not quite. So he'll be shooting for a single in just a moment. Oh, just picked it up. Still counts, of course, right? But just barely nicked it.
Oh.
So that'll be a spare for Louth. He's at 46 plus through 4. We'll also be able to check in with some other bowlers today. We're tracking Matt Kruger. Very good bowler. Had a tough day yesterday. 803 through 6 games. We'll also be taking a look at Chuck Paris. He's on lanes 11 and 12. He got off to a pretty good start. He's at 57 through 4, but he missed a single in his most recent frame, the 4th. Chuck Paris had 849 for his 6 games yesterday. We'll also be looking at the other divisions. On your screen right now, that's Scott Charlwood. He's a C division bowler, currently in 3rd place based on average. He's bowling alongside Chris Louth, so we'll get to see quite a bit of Scott as he picks up that spare. Stepping on the lanes now, Chris Louth. Working on that spare. Take the 8 film. He's looking at the 9-10. We'll be welcoming in Pat Rufo shortly. Louth picks one up. Now, Chris had quite a consistent day yesterday. His low game was 130. High game 168. And his scores from game 1 to 6 were 159, 147, that 130, 159, 158, and 168 for his total of 921. You'll be able to interact with us this morning on Duckpin TV. So if you're following along, feel free to comment in our YouTube chat. For instance, we have Nicholas Lloyd with us this morning. He says, "Good morning, Duckpin TV." It's our first opportunity to see Matt Kruger. He's the one that was on your screen, coming on your screen in the hat. He's at 38 through 4 frames so far. Puts one in there, and that's a strike for Kruger. Finally getting his day started here in the 5th frame of Game 7. Back to Chris Louth. Little light once again, facing another split. Looks like Pat Rufo is joining us now. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Brian. I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
All right. Well, I'm not sure if you explained to the audience how this is working this year, but this is a trial by fire. we're here, and we're short-staffed a little bit. We have some health issues in the Duckpin TV world, and so we're gonna get this thing rolling. And luckily, we have a small enough shift we can get this thing all worked out this morning and this afternoon, and come back in next weekend Sunday with a full 80 bowlers next Sunday. I'm really looking forward to that. Right now, the bowlers are about midway through their first game, and a couple of our bowlers are off to relatively good starts. Chris Louth just had a couple of bad splits. Chuck Paris is rolling a very nice game to start his morning. And Brian is in his house right now. This is kind of cool. I'm sitting here with Chris Cano. We're basically the whole staff here at Lucky Strike. So it's my Monday night bowling partner in front of you right now, Scott Charwood. He's off to a pretty good start this morning as well.
Yeah, we were talking about the C division, right? That's the division Scott Charwood is in. And if he continues bowling the way he is here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 marks in a row, he's going to be making a play at that C division.
Yes, he is. He's having a good start this morning. This is Chris Louth right now, trying to break that string of splits, and he doesn't. They seem to be getting wider and wider. They went from the 8, the 9, 10 to the 5, 7, now the 7, 9. So rough stretch here for Chris.
Important for him to pick up the wood, right? And say, hey, I made 2 singles here.
Yeah.
When the opportunity arises, I'm going to make that single for a spare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just all you can do with a shot like that is hit both of them, and every once in a while you do get a bounce and steal one. But I think mentally it's better to pick both singles, and then, as you said, just hope the next one's not a split. The third bowler on this pair is Robbie Thatch.
While Chris Louth was up, Matt Kruger rolled simultaneously. He filled his strike with 9, ended with a 10 box. So he sits at only 67 through 6 frames. He's going to need a big day if he's going to make a play at the first weekend lead in this Eastern Classic. So 67 through 6, not the greatest start for Matt Kruger.
And here's Scott Charwood looking to double up. And if he does, he's actually on pace to have the highest score of the tournament so far. As you were saying about very consistent bowling. And the high score of the tournament is a 173. Chris hit 4 games within 14 pins of that. So it hasn't been anything super big. That's a heck of a 9 load for Scott. He'll take that after going off the side for 2. So Scott is plus 55 with plus 54 on his box with 2 boxes to go. He's got a shot to run at the high score for the tournament thus far. And here's Chris trying to break that string of splits. And there's the single we were talking about. So hopefully all the splits he's been shooting at, he's shot 5 singles in a row right now. So hopefully the 6th one is the charm.
All over it there. Hopefully that's a start for Chris Louth in this game. He already has 2 spares, but he'll need to finish big, gain some confidence heading into game number 8.
Yeah, Chris Louth is coming off a big weekend in Maryland. His team went down and won the Fed matches in an all Rhode Island finals. It was pretty exciting. 360 bowlers in that massive tournament and 3 bowling houses.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I watched the Duckpins Forever YouTube channel. Yeah. Saw Matt Kruger there. Pick up a nice single for a spare. Remind you this morning that you can interact with us by chatting in YouTube. All right. For example, this morning, we got a good look bowlers from Christine. So thanks for joining us this morning, Christine. And everybody else, feel free to comment, share your thoughts, questions, and ideas with us.
Here comes Scott Charwood again in his 9th box. Tried to convert that 6-pin spare, and he again leaves a single pin. That's 2 boxes in a row where he threw a good second ball, but 2 boxes in a row where he was off the head pin on his first ball. Still a really, really solid game going. 149 in the 9th with a chance to get into the 50s or 60s easily. Here's Chris Louth on a load. Good ball. And almost, he did tip the 9 this time. Almost the same 9-10 again on that lane 16. Chris did manage to tip that over. Here's a nice look at it. Slow motion. You're going to see that just looks like the head pin just off the wall. It just caught the front of the 9-pin. And Chris trying to make the back-to-back 10-pin. And he's all over that. So he righted the ship after those 3 split boxes in a row. Now looking at trying to finish big in the 10th box.
On the other hand, we have Matt Kruger. Just went straight through the head pin for a 3 fill on his spare in the 7th frame.
That's 7 pins. I'm sorry. Scott Charwood leaves the ultimate split, the 7-10. He's looking to basically with his ball, he's going to have to hit this very light on the inside of the 7 pin and pray that it travels all the way across the lane. But probably going to have to settle for the 1-1 and take a nice 150 game onto the next pair. So 151 for Scott Charwood to start this morning. Sorry, 152. My bad. I'm watching 3 different things at once, so bear with me. See, Chris Louth is going to step up, and this is a big ball right here. Not going to make or break him for the tournament, but certainly would help mentally to close this game out with a mark and basically survive and move on.
Absolutely. He gets a good fill here. You're talking at least 130. All right, not a bad start. Yeah, before Louth hits the lanes this time, just to follow up on Chuck Paris, you saw him just on the left of your screen. He finished with, looked like, well, he's not done just yet. He had a strike in the 10th, shooting for 120, and he got it, it looks like. So around 120 for Chuck Paris. Let's see what Louth can do.
Okay, he got away with that one. That was a very, very light hit for him. He usually comes in much heavier on the head pin, but as I said, he got away with the nice break, and he's got a chance to convert this triangle in the corner and maybe shoot a 140 game. Oh, man, did not catch a break on that ball. So that'll be a 7 load, perhaps a 10 box. And so far, that's his lowest game of the tournament, 128. Hopefully, he can keep it that way if he wants to continue to lead. As you can see, that one game dropped his average score 4 points. So something to keep an eye on throughout this weekend and, of course, next weekend. With only 33 bowlers this weekend, there's 108 bowlers signed up for next weekend already, and 12 openings available on the Iron Man shift, as our man Jim Kaufman calls it.
But he might be watching, so get well, Jim. Somebody else that needs to wake up out of a sleep is Matt Kruger here. He started to rub the sand out of his eyes here in the 9th with a single pin spare, but he still sits at only 97 through 9. Cuts through the middle just about again.
He left again the 10 pin. He's He's been converting it consistently, so I guess he's not going to complain about leaving it. Louth throws a ball, and not a lot can go wrong. He has a very controlled approach. Everything is so beautifully mechanically done that the ball is generally right where he wants it more often than not.
All right, so Louth's group has just started. The other groups are shifting over. All right, you bowl one game on each pair before sliding over to the next pair. Looks like we're going to get our first opportunity to see Chuck Paris in just a moment. But first, Scott Charlwood.
Oh dear. Well, the last ball he threw 5-10, 5-7-10, 7-10. He's not appreciating these leaves right now, I can tell you that. This one's a little bit more makeable, but certainly not a fun shot. As you can see with that last game, Scott now moved into second place. Of course, he converts it on the third ball, of course, right? How many times have you seen that? So Scott moved into second place on the C division. Bobby Dunnick will be bowling this afternoon's shift. He is the current second place in B and first place in the C division. Bobby Dunnick throwing a really good ball right now. Oh, hit right in the back of the head. So 2 pins went behind the 5 pin, and the second pin went by and clipped it right behind. And Scott Charlwood over on lane 18 just left a solid 10 pin. If at least nothing's with it this time. Sure, that's what he's thinking. Much friendlier to see it sitting there by itself than with friends. He cleans it up for a spare. Louth just left 2-pinner. He's got the 4-7. Put that on the outside of the 4 and push it into the 7 just like that. So Chris opens with 3 consecutive marks.
Chuck Paris now on the left of your screen.
A lot in the way of strikes until I brought it up. Of course, then Scott Charwood says, okay, well, if you want to see a strike, I'll throw one. Here's Chris Louth this time trying to load up another spare. Haven't seen any strike balls out of Chris yet this morning, I don't believe. Mostly all spares. And of course, these guys are gonna love me when they watch this back. They're gonna go, "Wow, this guy's like talking us into throwing strikes." A beautiful ball right there, 10 pins in the air, all of them up and out of the pit. Beautiful, beautiful ball. Cleared the rack.
And as usual, Pat, right? The announcers curse, or in this case, some luck.
Yeah. Right? The announcer talked them right into it. It was awesome. Of course, that's only gonna work a couple times. And there's another one. So I talked about not seeing strikes, and we just saw 3 in a row. Something else we haven't talked about in a long time up here in New England is that nasty 4-letter word snow. And of course, it's the Eastern Classic. And what's in the forecast now but snow? But not during our weekend. That's the good news. Next weekend might be a different story, however, so we'll have to pay attention to that. Here's Scott Charwood working on a strike. Crosses that caught one extra one, which might be the one he needs, because this goes a lot easier without that 10-pin sitting there. Can now hit this more. He can hit this full on the head pin and push it right through. Just like that.
Beautiful.
Man, I tell you what, I think Scott might have a microphone in his ear, because I'm talking him into a couple of shots here. Now, if I can talk Chris Louth into a double, we'll be doing something. Beautiful shot by Scott Charwood on that very difficult spare conversion. Okay, you get the extra pin. That's good. That's a good break. Good ball. Chris will be the first one to tell you he'll take 9 all day. Ball just goes right out there, almost to the second set of arrows, and just barely tips over that 8 pin. Trying to convert the 7 pin. He's all over it.
Now that's the start he wanted. Absolutely.
Right, it's a good bounce back. I mean, the 128's not going to hurt him. Nothing he can do about it now, so except throw a better game and put it in the past and move forward, which he's done very, very rapidly. And Scott Charwood throwing another nice game. He's got a chance to be 30 up in the 5th, throwing a good ball. Nick Lloyd, how are you this morning, Mr. Lloyd? I listened to you for 6 hours last week. It was a beautiful ride home from Maryland.
Been focusing on Louth here, as we should. It's the current leader, 149.9 average through 7 games. But to catch you up on the other bowlers we've been keeping an eye on, Chuck Paris, 34 through 3. He had that one spare in the second frame, but filled it with 5. Matt Kruger, 28 through 3. Once again, off to a slow start.
Yeah, it's been a relatively quiet morning. This is a small shift, obviously, but not too much hoopla yet. We'll see. Maybe we can fix that too. Scott Charwood left himself another difficult spare. But that's not really affecting him really right now. He's making them all. Another beautiful conversion. Just barely touched the head pin and converted a very difficult 1-2-7. 1-2-5-7. Very difficult. 1-2-7-8. My bad. 1-2-7-8. Chris Louth needs to catch another trip and cannot. Can slide that over. He's just got to get. It's a little bit more difficult now. I spoke too soon. It's no longer the same setup that he had. He's going to shoot it, but the 6-pin was reset by the rack a bit further off to the right. Doesn't change the shot too much. You got to hit that. You had to hit that 3-pin a little bit lighter, but I think mentally that can get in your head when the pin's not set right. Converts to 10, which is big. So he's 39 pins over his box. 4 boxes to go. He's got a chance to put up a big score here. That ball that he threw there was just a bit heavy. Didn't quite tip the 4-pin, which would have given him a spare opportunity for sure.
All right, Pat, we've got a little lull in the action here. So we're going to bring you our first trivia question. We've got a trivia question for each shift at this year's Eastern. Okay. So we'll put this out there to our viewers. We'll bring it back up a couple of times. And then towards the end of the shift, we'll get your answer, Pat. And then we'll see if anyone following along on YouTube has guessed the correct answer as well.
All right.
All right. So our Duckpin TV trivia presented by duckpinbook.com is, where was the first Eastern Classic held? Where was the first Eastern Classic held? All right, so ponder that for a couple of moments. We'll bring you the answer later on in the shift. And check out duckpinbook.com. The golden age of duckpin bowling, the myths and legends that made the game, is available now. Scott Charwood there converts the 10. He's got 111 through 7. So he, 10ing out would get to around 140. And that, I think, would bump him up to the top spot in the C division based on average.
Definitely throwing a good ball. There's one. Matt Kruger just threw a bomb. He hasn't thrown many of those, but that was one. I saw it. Chris Louth, another 7-8. He's really had some bad luck on good balls this morning. That was a great first ball. So, again, he's practicing one-pinners all morning here, it seems, and when he's had the opportunity to shoot him, he's made them. That's frustrating right there because he was on a nice roll there and really didn't deserve that split. The last box, the ball was a little heavy on the head pin, but this box was a flush.
Now, if you're new to the Eastern Classic here, you might ask, what does it take to win the Eastern Classic? Well, if you take a look here, we've got the past 12 Eastern Classic champions listed. Usually it takes around a 155 average, give or take. Last year, Colby D'Antonis put up one of the highest scores in nearly a decade when he shot 1907 for his 12 games. He beat out Colton Gu from 2021 with a 1906. Those are the two highest scores we've had since 2011, at least.
Big numbers there. Scott Trotwood just converted to spare, so he's looking at potential for a 150 game. A very, very nice start to the morning for Scott. Chris Louth looking to, again, break a string of splits. He's really thrown a great ball and hasn't gotten... And again, it's the same exact leave. It's the second time on 18 he's left the 3-4-6. This time the 6-pin stays where it's supposed to. But still can't convert it. So, again, 3 splits in a row. Same happened in the previous game for Chris. He has 2 boxes left to right the ship in this game. See Matt Kruger stepping up to your left side there, and he's attempting to convert 4-pin. All over it. He needs something. He needs a couple of big ones in a row, and he's very, very capable of doing that. Scott Trotwood again, yet another spare fill. Said many of those thus far. Off the side again for 5. Left himself again a very difficult spare leave. He's been converting several of them. And see, this time the 10-pin was there, so.
We've got Chuck Paris here on a double, so he could really turn his day around here.
Up in the 9th box. Chris with a bomb. There it is. He needed that. He's been throwing the ball really well. It just a hair off, and the results have been extremely difficult for him. He's left a ton of splits, but he's still bowling very well. So Scott Trotwood will be up in the 10th frame, trying to throw a spare and get to the 50s. He's probably already got enough to get himself into the lead in the C division at this point. But another mark would certainly not hurt his causes. He's throwing a really nice game. I'll be asking him where this is on Monday night, I'm sure. As will he be asking me the same question. We have both collectively been struggling at Max Bolaway in West Warwick, Rhode Island on Monday nights. And a tip for the strike. So he could actually get to the 60s here. Throws one more of those, and he's got a nice start to his morning. He's not going to complain. Oh, he did dip it over. That's a huge double right there. The 9-10. Well, no complaints there. 161 for Scott. He's going to be very happy with that. It's going to put him into the lead in the C division. Looking to load a spare. I'm sorry, he threw a strike. He's looking to load a strike right here. He would love to see a double on this ball. Okay, he got away with that. That was not one of his better pocket hits, but he did get away with it, and he's got a 3-pin spare opportunity. Scott Chaw went off to a 313 for 2 this morning. He's got to be happy with that. Louth with a spare attempt. No doubt about that ball. Hit him on with the ball. That's the best way to take no chances. A lot of times you shoot that shot on the outside, and then third pin will just sit there and stick its tongue out at you. And that time he gave it no opportunity to do that. Chance to get well into the 50s, bounce back from that 128. Right back to where he was yesterday, upper 50s and 60s. Okay, so 155. Not happy with the last ball, but he's got to be happy with that game for sure.
Chuck Paris here, filling a spare. Looks like he fills it with 8. He's working on a pretty decent game here. That'll bring him to, I believe, 133 in the 8th. Picks up that spare, so he's 143 plus through 9. Really just waiting on Chuck Paris now to come up for his 10th frame. He's got 143 plus through 9. He's not going to come close to catching Chris Louth this game, but a strong finish for Paris might put him a bit closer. We have to remember that Louth had 155, so anything above that for Paris helps cut down that disadvantage. And that strike will certainly help. So Chuck Paris now at 163 plus in the 10th frame. Paris off the side there. Looks like that'll put him into the 170s at least.
See Scott Charwood here, second box of his 9th game, working on a spare. Catches the 5-pin, take that 9 all day. We get a real nice close angle here in this this pair. Like 19 and 20, we get to see all the action from the side. The bowlers are not going to be in front of the cameras. Scott Charwood tips the 7-pin into the gutter. Continues his hot streak. Here's Chris trying to come back from a 9 box. See Chuck Paris there, 143.8. So if you average wise, he's 54 pins behind Chris Louth with 4 games to go. So Chuck is certainly capable of throwing the numbers needed to make that move. Chris went off the side, but he got himself a nice spare break. Left himself the 1-2. And that's an ugly sound when you're shooting a 2-pinner. Scott Charwood now working on another spare, off to yet another good start this game. And that's very difficult. Rips the middle, kicks out an extra pin, but takes a 5 load and leaves an extremely difficult shot. Be happy to clean up 10 and move on to the next box. So he'll settle for a 9. But again, 2 marks, decent loads. It's Matt Kruger just on the very, very edge of your screen with a bomb right there to start off his 8th game. Chris Louth answers right back with a strike of his own on lane 20. Beautiful ball.
Well, we've got a little break in the action here. Just a reminder that you can chat with us on the YouTube comment stream. We'd love to hear from you. Got a couple messages this morning. Good morning, Duckpin TV from Nicholas Lloyd. Thank you for joining us.
Duck pinners forever.
I'd also love to get your feedback on our first trivia question of the weekend. Where was the first Eastern Classic held? Give us your responses in the chat on our Duckpin TV live stream.
Yeah, my first guess is it was held at a bowling alley, but I'm going to hold back on that for now. Scott Charwood just bounced back from that split with another bomb. He's throwing a great ball this morning. There's Matt Kruger. Holy mackerel. He throws his hands up in the air. He can't believe it. A double. He says, I got a double. Oh, my goodness. Chris Louth, extremely rare leave there. That's a pocket hit, and he just cut through and took out a weird bunch of pins. I think this shot goes, though. Well, not if you hit it there, but I think if you get that 3-pin moving, I think it takes both of them. But we won't know after that one. So you got Scott Charwood coming back into your screen, working on yet another very nice game. Almost got a lot nicer, but just couldn't clip that 9-pin, but take the load and shoot for another single. All over it. Just like Monday night. It's going to kill me. Oh, man. I've been off camera and off screen, giving him a hard time already. Matt Kruger is just on the very edge of your screen here. He is working on a double to start his eighth game. We are currently working on getting his scores updated, and we'll have his 7-game score updated in just a bit. Chris Louth just went off the side of the head pin there and left the 139. Makeable spare. Kruger loads with 5-7 on his double. Try to clean up for a 9 box. Louth hits that just like you have to, right between the 1-3, directly into the 9. No doubt about it. Ball hit all 3 pins.
Charwood, another 9. At 82 through 5 frames. Like you said, another great start. And he picks it up again. It's been kind of a sloppy game so far for Chris Louth. Not that he's thrown the ball that bad, but he's got a couple of more unusual splits. Filling a spare in the 5th frame here. Little light. Got the luck there. That was only facing a 2-pinner rather than a split.
Gotta figure out what I've seen.
Picks it. It's usually a slower start to the Eastern Classic on the first weekend. This is the smallest group of the 5 that will hit the lanes over this 2-weekend event. Our second group today is just a little bit bigger. Next weekend, there are 3 groups that will play from Friday evening to Sunday evening, basically. And there are only 12 spots remaining, and those are all in Group 4. All right, so there's still a chance to sign up for the Eastern Classic if you're interested, but you're going to have to do so as soon as possible if you want one of those 12 spots. See Chuck Paris here struggling just a little bit. He was on the right of your screen. So we cut back to Scott Charwood. He's off the left for 7.
Scott off to another good start, Brian. I've been doing double duty here. I don't know if I'm the cameraman, I'm the announcer, and helping Chris keep score. It's fun. It's good times. Is that camera angle good now for you? I can see it pretty well on my side.
Yeah, it looks better. Yep, looks better, I think. I'll try and keep track of Chuck Paris's progress.
I was just thinking about next week with 40 bowlers, how that's going to be fun. People all over the place next week. All right, Chris Louth. Trying to get something going here. Off to a bit of a slow start this game. Backdoor doubles would help, but he'll have to settle for a single pin. Try to stare down that 2-pin. Set himself up for a big finish. He's got 4 boxes left this game. Doesn't miss those very often, I can tell you that. As I was saying before, his release is so consistent that the ball goes exactly where he wants it to go, and it doesn't travel much from where he releases it. It's a beautiful, smooth delivery. It was supposed to be 11. I think that 11th bowler may join the next shift. I'm not sure what they decided on that yet. Hey, somebody wrote a book about duckpin bowling. Did you know that, Brian?
I had no idea.
I get to bowl with the author every week. It's kind of cool. And Scott Charwood rips the middle for 5, but he's put himself in position where he can afford a ball or two like that because he's throwing such a good ball. When you're on the head pin all day, you're bound to get those. So he's got to clean it up and move.
Yep, he's still on pace to hit his average so far in this tournament, 134. And that would keep him at the top of the leaderboard.
Clean as a whistle strike right there. Scott Charwood with a nasty 6 box.
And now Chris Louth up on lane 19, working on a spare.
Is
Need a good load here, good fill, to get this game to where it needs to be.
10's good. 10's
I'd say
fill.
so.
So Chris, again, after a couple of splits, he rights the ship. Chance to double up and turn this game completely around. Matt Kruger's throwing some rocket launchers, but had a tough stretch in between. Seems like he's getting loose. Maybe he'll hang around and do the Ironman shift next Saturday. What do you think?
Well, as we know, you can re-enter the Eastern Classic.
Some people have done it. I believe there's a couple of guys I know from Rhode Island that did it.
It does require you to pay double the original entry fee for your second entry. So it is a bit costly, but people do it.
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
Oh dear. 24 games in 2 weekends. That's Phil Clough territory. That's the first I think that's the first time all morning someone's had to either clear a gutter. I have not seen. I'll stop. I will stop. I'm not going to say it. Not going to say it.
Scott Charwood nearly gets a strike there, leaves the 7-pin.
That clearly would have been an announcer's jinx, which I don't want to be responsible for. Scott's favorite pin. He's been tracking these singles all morning, and this time it slides by.
That was a spare, actually. Yeah.
What did he go off the side? Oh, he did go off the side. I didn't see the 3 pins. Wow. Nice conversion on that spare then.
Chris Louth going for a double. This would be a big moment.
He likes it. Oh, and the messenger fell off before it could complete its task. He's had one moving over toward that 10 pin, but as you're going to see here in replay, the ball is flush in the 1-2 pocket and a little interference there as the messenger was on its way. Kruger with another double. So he's got double, 3 opens and a double. Louth covers his single. My bad. Kruger has a mark in between, so he's got 5 marks, including 2 doubles, which is a good start to this string.
He's got quite a bit of making up to do, though.
He has a lot of ground.
He's at 1,047 through 8. So
157 pins behind.
Right, he's going to need a 800 for 4.
Yeah, that's all. Well, a couple of 220s. He's got a chance to throw a big one here. He could get into the 70s and 80s if he continues to throw strikes.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of the beauty of this tournament that we haven't quite talked about just yet, Pat, is all of the prizes, right?
Oh,
it's not just the regular prize list, based on your total score for 12 games. They have block scores, right, or block awards. So if you have a good 6 games, you can win an award. They have game awards, and they have tens of others awards.
It's amazing, and it takes, and I say this in no disrespect, it takes a long time for them to money that comes in, and it's beautiful to do.
Scott Charwood picked up a spare, loads it with 7 in the 10th, so he's going to finish with 138.
Wow. Matt threw a good ball and did not get a good result.
The man of the moment here, Chris Louth. Kind of at the point here where this game could go either way. He's at 119 plus in the 9th. A good fill and another mark would put him close to his 150 pace that he's been on through 8 games. But bad first ball. could really be trouble for him. So this first ball will be absolutely critical to his day and perhaps to his tournament.
And Louth steps up now, and 1, 2, 3, and we'll see what happens. And that is an incredibly good break. He ripped the middle, but he got a little help, leaving himself a makeable spare. And covers that nicely. Chance to get into the
important.
40s.
So
that was
important.
a big one. Yep. It's going to drop his average. He's going to go down, but it's not a game over game, you know. He's going to have to bounce back, and he's going to the right place to do that. Chris and Scott will be moving down to the side of the house where they fall nicely, and there's a 146 to finish. Nice finish for Chris.
So he drops down to 150 exactly for his average. 1,350 through 9 games for Chris Louth. That's a 150 pace. But again, if we look back to past Eastern Classics, the most recent at least, we see that you need a little more than a 150 average to claim first place. The past 2 years, in fact, you've needed almost 160 across your 12 games in order to take the lead after the final ball was thrown. Colby D'Antonis last year, 1,907, 158.91 average. We got Chuck Paris coming up here. He's been Chris Louth's closest challenger in Group 1, as you can see on our leaderboard. However, he's still only pacing at a 143 clip. As a matter of fact, I had the pleasure last year of bowling in the Eastern Classic with Chuck Paris, Chris Louth, and Matt Kruger on this very shift, this very group of bowlers. We were all in the same pair. Matt Kruger put up a really, really fantastic score. He was the first weekend leader, in fact, but ultimately Colby D'Antonis eclipsed his score. We've got Chuck Paris, puts it in the pocket there for 8. Goes to clean it up on the outside, but collects those 2 pins. So he's got 121 plus through 9 frames. His first ball in the 10th frame will be critical for him to maintain his 143 average in the tournament. Now again, I hope you are following along with us on YouTube throughout the day. You're more than welcome to comment along with us. We may feature your comments live on the air. We'd love to know what you think about how the bowlers are doing. Are you rooting for Chuck Paris? Are you rooting for Chris Louth? Do you think he's going to put up a score in these last 3 games that's high enough to withstand the onslaught from the nearly 120 bowlers set to play next weekend in this Eastern Classic. Or just say hello. Say good morning, Duckpin TV. It's good to be with you again. If you weren't with us when we started this morning, we're at the Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. If you're familiar at all with the Yukon Huskies, we're just probably 5 minutes down the road from the University of Connecticut campus here at Lucky Strike Lanes. Call this the basketball capital of the world. Often. UConn men's basketball team is putting on quite a performance of late. They got a big win yesterday and earlier in the week over top 25 ranked Providence. The women's basketball team also probably going to make a run in the NCAA tournament. They've been a little short-staffed this year, very much like our Duckpin TV crew. Our team at the center is moving our booth around so that we have our eagle eyes on Chris Louth as he finishes up his tournament. See Chuck Paris here ends up with 7 on his first ball. Brings him to 135 so far in the 10th frame. That'll take him off his 143 pace. Certainly not going to convert this. Does not. One more pin will get him to 137. And he finishes up with 136 there.
All right, Brian. I don't know if anybody knows what we just did, but it was pretty cool.
Our booth is mobile this year. We moved all the way from lanes 19 and 20 to lanes 1 and 2. So we can bring you those eagle eyes on Chris Louth as he finishes up his tournament here. Still poised in position to make a run at the tournament championship. We know that you're going to need at least a 150 average to have a chance.
Yeah, with just the last 10-year history, I mean, there's been a couple of years where 150 was flirting with it, for sure. But recently we've seen some much higher numbers. Last year, Kobe was over 1,900. He had Colton Gu over 1,900. Some big scores. And there they are. So, I mean, there was a 150 in just 3 years ago. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but everything else is 52 or higher. So Scott Charwood just knocked the stuffing out of that 5-pin, brought it all the way back out of the pit. So Scott continues to bowl very, very well. Chris Louth looking to add on to his spare in the first. That's a little Messengers again got interfered with. It was coming over to say hello to that 6-pin, and you'll see on this replay as the pin comes off the left wall, it's going in the right move, and then it comes and hits in. Not happening. Typical duck pin 9 drop. That's a very rare miss for Chris on a single pin. That doesn't happen often.
You know, I don't think we talked very much about the challenge of moving from one end of a bowling center to another. Here at Lucky Strike Lanes, I think it's even a little more challenging because the physical lanes themselves are a little different. Right, the first 8 lanes at the center were transported from the original Lucky Strike lanes, which were not too far down the road in Willimantic until the 1970s when this center, this building, was built.
And the gentleman you see bowling right now, Rob Thatch, informed both Scott and Chris of that information when they moved down here. He goes, "We're going down to the original lanes." So he's familiar with the history. And Scott Charwood on a mark. Tips over the 8-pin, which would have been nasty, but he leaves himself the 6-pin. And again, all over it. Scott and I might have to join a league here. I don't know. Tell you what. Oh, Chris just threw a hammer. Just could not tip over that 9-pin. That was one of his better balls of the morning. Well, that's even rare to see him miss 2 consecutive singles. That's it's very discouraging. But first ball's working. He's got to get that spare ball down. The other thing, Brian, about this particular pair, this move down to this end is because of the size of this shift. They're down here all by themselves now. There's nobody near them within 16 lanes. That won't be the case next game, but
Right, all by yourself with your thoughts.
yeah,
3
down
games
here.
away
Nobody else down here.
from potentially putting up a winning score in the Eastern Classic, right?
It won't be that way next week, will it? That move next week that we just made is going to be a much heavier traffic to get through, I'm sure. So Scott is trying to bounce back. He had an open. Just got another nice message from F. Maltese thanking us for the coverage and excited about coming up here next weekend and bowling, I'm sure. Thanks for tuning in. It's good to be live. Had to do a little creative thinking on our production manager did some creative thinking, and we're able to bring this live without so far without any issues at all. It's been smooth sailings thus far. Scott missed the single, so these guys are getting some good breaks on this end. They're getting some nice 9 drops, and it's a third missed single.
Not a 2-pinner this time, at least for Chris Louth. Or a 1-pinner, sorry. Yeah, a little easier, right? Sometimes it's good to get out of your funk. You've missed 2 singles in a row. You have more than 1 pin. Easier spare opportunity. Kind of counterintuitive, but Louth picks it up. So he's at 49 through 4 frames. He got 9 on his first ball in the first 3 frames and broke that streak in the 4th here. Glad you all could join us this morning for the 93rd Eastern Classic. This is the longest running event in our sport, and many say the most prestigious. It's one of the only tournaments left where the high score wins. Right? You bowl your 12 games, whoever puts up the most pins, knocks the most over, you win. Pretty simple, pretty pure. Goes back to the very earliest days of our sport.
Scott Charwood with another 9 drop. This time he does convert it.
Very nice. Charwood 65 through 5. He is certainly keeping his pace so far to stay atop the C division. Chris Louth on his spare. There it is.
There's the strike.
So despite missing 2 single pin spare opportunities in the 2nd and 3rd frames, he's at 69 plus through 5 frames. So with any kind of decent fill on that strike, he will be continuing his 150 pace.
More. This one, more. That camera's good.
Catching up with Chuck Paris and Matt Kruger. Paris started with a strike in his first frame, but had a little bit of bad luck in the second. Only filled the strike with 5 pins. Ended up with 8 overall, and he sits at only 22 through 2. Paris could still put up a pretty big score, if you will. He certainly isn't in contention for the tournament at all right now, as we see him on the lanes. And there's a nice 9 on his first ball. Meanwhile, on lanes 1 and 2, Scott Charwood threw off the side.
Yes, he did. Definitely.
Chuck Paris picks his 10 pin up for a spare. Now this is a big moment for Chris Louth, right? It's on a strike. If you could turn this into a double, we might be talking more about the possibilities of him climbing to the very top of the leaderboard, even after next weekend.
Oh, he opened it up for 9. It wasn't a great pocket hit, but he got some great pin action and almost tripped it out. Good pin action on that ball.
Yeah, I was thinking that double here would be nice for him, because he does not want to end the weekend averaging just 150, right? As we've been talking about all morning, you want to get that up to at least a 155 average.
Yeah, there's too many, and he's missed 3 singles this game.
Man.
You're not going to see him miss 3 singles in a night. Never mind 1 game. It's very rare. Struggling with the single pin. But he's got 4 boxes left this game. He's got to put that behind him. He has 3 marks out of 6, which is not awful. He's thinking, could be 6 marks, but got to go forward. Got to move to the 7th box and let the singles keep coming, because you're going to make them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the mindset you have to have is, hey, if I'm going to miss 3 singles all day, hey, they're all in a row, no big deal. Charlwood there, off the side for 7. Ooh.
This time he punched it out, but the bounce back did not bounce back into the 3-pin like he wanted it to. Try to clean this up for 10. She does. Do you have his last game in? Yeah, should be. I don't think so. Hey, he doesn't have to shoot that one. He's going to say that. See, he just said it. I can't miss that one. He just said it. I knew he was going to. Oh, like I said, if you miss a single, all you can do is move forward and hope the next one just keep getting singles because that's a good ball. And he's too good a bowler to miss that many. He's just going to figure it out and zone in on that one pin.
Yeah, the most important frame is the next frame.
Absolutely. Big frame.
Chris doesn't want to do too much math right now, right? Because if he did, he'd see that he's missed out on 25 pins,
right?
That he would have gotten had he converted those single pin spares. Right.
And of course, Brian, I'm sitting here doing my math, and 7. Let's see, this is game
10.
10. So 10 times 5 is 50. So I'm doing math. To get to a 155 average, he has to average. He's got to average 150, but he's got to throw a 200 game in between it. So he's got to go 500 to get to that 155 average for 3 games. So
yeah, unfortunately, he doesn't look like a bowler at the moment who has a 500 in him, right? If you're missing those singles. But who knows, right? String a couple strikes together, you could get there. All right, so Louth up. Talking about stringing strikes together. Here's the moment. Working on a strike in the 7th.
That's the one.
There it is.
That's the one. So the double is definitely
Here's the replay. Very big moment for Chris Louth.
Huge ball brings the 4-pin backwards. That's always a sign of a great ball. Kept a lot of pins on the deck that time mixing. I was talking about that 200 game. again, like you were doing before, the 25 pins right now he'd be darn close to shooting near 200 if he finishes this game with any kind of action at all. But he could still go out. He could still strike out and get to 200. So, despite missing 3 singles.
Yeah, now would be the moment to text your friends, make sure they're tuning in. We could be watching right now the 2023 Eastern Classic champion. Right, we've had a first weekend winner, or first weekend leader, win the tournament in years past. I think the most recent year that occurred was 2020 with Chris Kruger.
Right.
All right, so it is possible. And
Oh,
this
he
next
put up a
ball
monster score.
on lane 1 is going to have a big say in whether or not that occurs.
And Chris knows it's game 10. Chris knows this is a huge ball. I promise you it's going to be a beautiful ball. Except it's too good. Too tight on the head pin. And just you'll see it just cut to the middle here. Didn't get the ball quite over to the left, and then second hop it straightened out on him, and now he's gonna just try to make a decent load here and salvage this game. That's a disappointing box right there. So he's at 135. If he can get into the 50s and 60s this game, it sets himself up so he's got to go 340 on lanes 3 and 4 for 2 games. So maybe he'll find a comfort zone on that second game on the same pair. That's another interesting aspect of this tournament. Each shift you finish your 5th and 6th games on the same lane. At the last few games this morning, but another strike here would put him right back there. Can't tip the 5-8. Clean that mess up. So Scott's going to be in the 120s. 123, I believe. Drop him down a couple of notches on the average. Bounce back from that. Speaking of bouncing back, Chris Louth would like to bounce back in this box. Still can get to the 50s with just a mark, but I'm sure he's thinking double here. There's the first one. All right, so that one bad ball in between. I'll tell you that eighth box was the ninth box really a dagger. But he can still increase his average. So as long as that 50 doesn't go down, he's in the picture. He just needs that 50 to go up. Chris will be finishing up his 10th frame of his 10th game, hopefully with a couple more 10s. Another interference ball there. Very close, but he's going to get into the 150s. As I was saying, a couple of 150s and a 200. Chris Louth has a 200 in him, I can tell you that. So he'll close this game out with a 155. His average will jump up slightly to by a half a pin. He's got to get that thing up, I'd say minimum 153, 154.
Got a little lull in the action here. This is a good opportunity to remind you of today's trivia question, brought to you by duckpinbook.com. That question is, where was the first Eastern Classic held? If you're watching along with us on YouTube, comment, tell us what you think the answer is, and we'll have the answer for you later on in today's broadcast, before the end of this shift, in fact. Golden Age of Duckpin Bowling, the myths and legends that made the game, is available now. Order at www.duckpinbook.com. Back to the action. Chuck Paris here. 98 through 7. Not his best game of the tournament, for sure. Puts it in there. And gets 9. He'll be shooting at the 10 pin. Not able to convert. Doesn't get it on the third ball either. So that leaves him at 107 through 8 frames. Just waiting to get things set up on lanes 3 and 4 so we can bring you the conclusion of Chris Louth's tournament. 150.5 average through 10 games. Let's see, he is, in fact, he's just started his 11th game on lane 4, shooting the single. And he converts. Those were a bit tricky for him in game 9. It's off to a good start. with a spare in the first of game 11.
I knew there was one more thing I was supposed to do. All right. Hopefully that's a good angle. It looks good on my end. So hopefully everybody out there watching is getting to see all the pin action, who's bowling. It's definitely some of the best camera angles we've had. I still miss the attempt at the pit cam. That was a cool idea, but way too much involved.
So on your leaderboard here, you might notice that there are some bowlers who are still sitting at 6 games. Those are the bowlers who will be joining us in the next group, Group 2, a little later on today. Of course, if you're new to the Eastern Classic, we can't forget that we have almost, and I might predict, 120 bowlers rolling next weekend. They haven't even appeared on our leaderboard yet because they haven't rolled any games, of course. So we've got to keep that in mind. And that's one thing probably on Chris Louth's mind as he tries to finish up his tournament. What score can I put up there that all 120 bowlers next week will not be able to beat? Just missed off camera. Chuck Paris, a strike in the 9th. He sits at 117, trying to salvage this game. It's been a tough one for him. Chris Louth filling a spare in the first.
He cuts through for 4 more than he might have had. Sometimes that's a 2-ball. Leaves a makeable spare. So referring to that second shift, obviously we're going to be spending a lot of time this afternoon with Mark Parker and John Esposito. John Esposito, a B bowler, having a very nice start to the tournament with that 141 average. Chris slides through the hole there, and now he's got to try to clean this up. Not the start he probably was anticipating. So at some point, Chris is going to start he's going to have to start throwing some doubles. He needs a monster game and a really good game to put himself in any kind of position at all. So Scott Trowwood at 19 through 2. This is one of the first games this morning. He hasn't marked early, so see if he can get things rolling again. He is leading currently the C division.
Oh, avoids the split.
The extra 6 fell. Scott Charwood trying to zone in on that 10 pin, which is not his favorite, but he's on that one this time. Now we're back to Chris Louth, who's trying to bounce back from that second frame. Try to get back in that pocket. And he does not. Does the same thing on the left side that he just did on the right side. So not the start to game 11 that Chris was hoping for. Nice conversion on that shot. Chris just made a very difficult spare and not in the conventional way.
And while we were watching Chris, Chuck Paris filled his spare in the 10th with a strike. So that puts him at 147. Bumps him up to a 143.2 average through 10 games. Just to put that in perspective for you, 10th place last year was a 142.75 average. All right, so Chuck Paris kind of right around a 10th place finish at this point, but he still has 2 games to go. So things could improve for him. Or, of course, as we know, right?
Just takes one game.
Things could go the other way, too.
Yep, one game either way. You hope it doesn't jump up late. You'd rather get that kind of a game out of the way early if you can, if it's going to happen. Matt Kruger with a typical Matt Kruger ball. Scott goes off the side over there for a 7-pin load and a nasty split. Bowlers are having a difficult time with single pins on lanes 1 and 2. Continues this pair. Matt just missed the 4-pin for a spare and for $10. Chris Louth trying to take advantage of that spare break. It was a really good spare break. Try to fill that mark in the 3rd. I expect this to be a good ball from Chris Louth right here. It was a good ball, but a bad result. Picket fence down there, the 9-10. Ugly leave. We'll see what happens here with the pins just got caught up in front of that slot in front of the 6-pin and just wouldn't allow anything to move over there. See if he can tip this over. Or bounce it, one or the other.
through 4 for Louth. Not too bad, right? A fill of 6 and a fill of 8 on 2 spares. And then a 9 and a 10, respectively.
Got to hang on to that wood at any cost right now. You cannot afford to leave any wood on the deck. Scott Trowwood trying to bounce back a little bit here. Throws a really nice ball there, leaving the 7-pin. This time he covers the 7-pin. Chris Louth steps up in the 5th box now. Trying to get things moving here. Try to get some action, get some excitement. Strikes will do that. And that's a good attempt, but 5-pin not cooperating.
It's a good moment. He started the game with a single pin spare. This is his second opportunity in game 11. Converts.
Covers the 5-pin beautifully. So there's a start right there. This is going to string them. Now he's going to string them together.
Yeah, Louth hasn't had a moment so far today, at least, where he's kind of accrued extra pins to the point where he can relax to finish out a game. Right? There's always been just a little bit of pressure to finish out a game and maintain his average. Right? It hasn't been easy heading into the last couple frames for Chris Louth today. Now back to Chuck Paris. Started with a split in his game 11. That's a 9 start for Chuck Paris. Back to Scott Charwood, current leader of the B division based on average. Sorry, the C division based on average. He's had a very good day thus far, but not on that ball. Looking at a 5-pin split. That'll be a 9 for Charwood. 68 through 6. Gonna need a couple marks to keep his position atop the C division. But the man of the moment, the man of the hour, Chris Louth, steps on the approach of lane 3. He earned a spare in the 5th frame, so this first ball will count double.
Oh my goodness. He's seen that all day long. Decent ball, and he leaves the 7-8. He left a 9-10 just a box, like 2 boxes ago. Chris got to try to clean this up for a 10 box, and then he's going to need a big finish to this game.
Chuck Paris, meanwhile, off camera, a 9 frame, so he sits at 18 through 2. Just want to remind you once again about our trivia question for this group. Where was the first Eastern Classic held? Where was the first Eastern Classic held? Log your answers in the chat on YouTube. We will be revealing the correct answer during the next game.
And as you see, now Scott Charwood leaves the 7-8 on lane 3. Pair has not been very friendly to either Scott nor Chris at this point, especially lane 3. Oof, Matt Kruger just Ooh, boy. Matt just threw a hammer and left the 5-7-10 clean. Absolutely nothing left to fight. All right, Chris Louth trying to start up a string of 14 great boxes. That's what he needs right now. So that's one. I got to talk him into it if I have to. So 1 down, 13 to go.
Every time he's needed it today, right? Every time that little bit of pressure has been applied to Chris Louth, he's come through it with a mark. What can you ask for?
Scott Trower looking to bounce back, and he tips over the 5-pin from behind there. That's a nice way to get a strike. Unexpected. Just enough. He caught just enough of it to knock it forward. Let's see, Matt Kruger coaxing that into a strike. Chris Louth now with a huge ball in his 11th game of this 12-game tournament. Double here could really give him some positive thoughts and motivation moving forward. He throws it. Oh, dear. Man. Just not having any luck on lane 3 at all. It's a third consecutive nasty split on lane 3, and all 3 balls have been in the pocket. But it seems like everything's back in order now.
Scott Charwood on a strike. He's going to need a double to kind of get back on pace. 7, not bad. He's averaged 133.5 through 10 games. That's good for a C Division lead thus far. But he's going to need to finish this 11th game strong. This conversion would be big, and he's got it.
Nice pickup there by Scott. Again, he's throwing it. He's really throwing a good ball. He's struggled a little bit the last couple games, but you never know when you can light one up. He's in a different position really than Chris Louth. He doesn't have a realistic shot at this point for the B division lead, but he's got a good chance to put up a nice number for both the C division and the handicap division, if you will, of the tournament. That's also a way to make some money back. There's a handicapped section that everyone is signed up for. That's the nice thing about this tournament. You can get into so many different ways for the one entry fee. Chris Louth looking to finish this game 11 with two big boxes of one. I'm sorry, one. He only has one box left. Covers the single.
A very important single, no less. He's going to need to mark in the 10th as well and have 2 good fills in order to come close to his 150 average.
We have an Eric Pellet sighting in the Lucky Strike lanes. Eric Pellet sighting. So aren't you waiting for a plane to come in? Surprised he's not in line at the airport.
All the viewers just turn it off.
I tell you, Matt Kruger's just shaking he's shaking his head all morning long. He just keeps shaking his head.
It was a very different story last year.
Yeah.
Charwood up on lane
Scott?
4.
Yeah, big bomb. All right, well, he puts himself right back in the chance. He's got a chance to go 39.
So that brings Charwood up to 135, right? Which will keep him atop the leaderboard in the C division. It's looking a little touch and go there for Charwood, but he's strike, spare, strike in his last 3 frames of this 11th game.
He'll stay at 135. Louth with a very, very, very important box. Let's try to set himself up for one final go. He's going to need a monster game his last game either way. Got a little distracted there as the lane 2 dropped a pin, but caught himself, reset himself. But still did not get the ball Yeah, he's gonna have a game that he didn't want to have in game 11. That's for sure. He's gonna take him down a couple of. It's gonna take him down a couple of pins into the upper 40s. It's not heading in the right direction. So 134 brings him down to a 149 average, and needs something big on the end.
So remember, the bowlers stay on the same lanes for their 11th and 12th games. So no movement here for Louth and Charwood. They'll stay right on lanes 3 and 4. We'll check in now with Chuck Paris. He's working on 2 spares in a row in frames 5 and 6. See if he can continue his streak in this, the 7th frame. Pretty heavy, but gets away with it. Looking at a 2-pin spare opportunity this time. And he converts that one. So that's 3 in a row for Chuck Paris, righting the ship in the 11th game. Scott Charwood on lane 4, beginning his 12th and final game. Just in case you're joining us, thank you for joining us. Early this morning, we started at 9:30 here at Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. The most prestigious tournament left in Duckpin bowling, the 93rd annual Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. As easy as it gets. Bowl 12 games, high score wins. And that winner might be Chris Louth. He's our current leader based on average, starting his 12th game. With a strike.
Bomb. That's the one he needs right there. Throw that ball a few more times, and we can talk about it. That one's a lot of pins up top, high in the air.
Missed that one for Chuck Paris. Couldn't quite see from our vantage point, but we'll get that caught up for you. It was a strike, in fact. Strike for Louth, strike for Paris. Will it be a strike for Charwood? He started his first with a spare. Our current C division leader based on average.
Man, tell you what.
Certainly not a strike.
It was not a strike at all. It was a darn good ball.
Matt Kruger,
Yep, Matt had a big game, but
146. Finished with a spare in the 10th, but you may have seen on camera just to the left, filled it with just 2. So good score for Kruger there, but still challenging tournament overall. He sits at a 132.6 average. The same, one pin less than our C division leader, Scott Charlwood.
yeah. Oh, Chris rips the middle. Yeah, Chris is, as we've been talking, just hasn't been able to really get a hot string together, a hot set of boxes. He just, every time he gets rolling, it's something jumps in the way. Out pops a split. And not all of them have been his doing. I mean, he's thrown some good balls and gotten some tough breaks. And then again, he's gone off the side a couple times and ripped the middle a couple times. So put that all together.
Yep. And like I said earlier, he's not put himself in a position where he can relax going to the last couple of frames each game. There's been quite a deal of pressure on him to finish strong in order to maintain that average rather than to improve upon it.
Matt Kruger once again rips the side for 2 over there on lane 1. Chris just, again, a little heavy on the head pin there, but he does walk away from that one with at least a spare break. The 2-4. It's almost a must make at this point. He's got to start stringing them. He gets a break off the wall, so he catches the inside. pace is slowed down a bit here. Here's Chris Louth in the fourth box, working on a spare. And again, it's just amazing. I'm sure we could figure it out, but he's left either the 7-8 or the 9-10 probably half a dozen times through the course of the morning. All right. Well, we have Charlwood and Louth now down to their last 6 boxes of the tournament. Charlwood looking to increase his C division lead. Louth trying to put himself in a better position to withstand what's about to happen next weekend with upwards of 120 bowlers. Well, not 120, that's an exaggeration, but about 108 next weekend and another 20 this afternoon. So almost 130 bowlers yet to put up a score, and Chris has got to try to fight off all 130 of them, and he's going to have to put up a much bigger number. Charlwood, another very difficult spare attempt, leaving himself a 5-pin for a 10 box. All right. I'll trying to get something started again. Seems like every time he does, he has to bowl on lane 3. Off the side of the head pin, but he did at least leave a spare break. And he goes off the side again and can't pick up the spare.
We have Chuck Paris here, looking to start his 12th game. His group's just a little bit behind the pace of the others. Louth and Charlwood's group is out in front, so they get to go as fast as they desire. They don't have to wait for anyone on the adjacent lanes to finish. Just tabulating some scores there, it looks like. So we'll go back to Scott Charlwood, our current C division leader by average. He sits at only 56 through 5. So he'll need a good 5 to finish his tournament. That was a good ball. Facing the 7 pin now for a spare opportunity. And he converts. So that is the start to the second half of the game that Scott Charlwood needed to maintain his perch atop the C division. Chuck Paris ready now to begin his 12th and final game on lanes 19 and 20. Good first ball. Doesn't get the 5 to carry. Or the 7, as a matter of fact. We'll cut back to Chris Louth, our man of the moment. Bit heavy. And he's facing us another split. Gets just 1. Meanwhile, Chuck Paris converted a 10 in his first frame. So Chris Louth, not the start he was looking for. 66 through 6 frames. He's going to need to mark out. He's going to need a mark in every frame. And still, his average will dip just a little bit. If he wants to maintain his average, he's going to need a double somewhere in these next 4 frames. Strike for Scott Charlwood. That's just what the doctor ordered for him. Let's see if Chris Louth got the same prescription.
Still don't have Reynolds games?
What's that?
You still didn't get Reynolds games?
Yeah, I gotta get them.
All right.
The only way
Better break for Chris Louth here. Check in with Chuck Paris. Better break for him as well. He'll be looking at the 7 pin. And that was not on target.
Many aspects. So off the head pin, missed a couple spares, got some bad breaks, and nothing went his way.
Well, I think it's just about time. Well, we've got a little lull in the action to return to our trivia question presented by duckpinbook.com. And that question was, where was the first Eastern Classic held? Pat, you've had a couple hours to think about it.
And I had a lot of time to do research, but I couldn't because I was stuck doing this. I think you gave the answer already. I'm not. I think it was at the original Lucky Strikes in downtown Willimantic on the 8 lanes. I'm not sure. That's my guess.
We didn't have anyone following along Logic asked, so you were the closest. The answer is the Genlaw Alleys in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Genlaw Alleys. Wow.
It wasn't until later as Scott Charwood throws a strike, a double in fact.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later that year that the Lucky Strike Alleys in Willimantic, the original Lucky Strike, opened.
Now, is that just as far as reference? Is that near the Capitol Theater? Is that somewhere in that area?
I'm not sure where that center was located.
Yeah, to do some history lessons. The Magnet School, I think. So Chris is really. It's just a struggle. There's no other way to say it. This is the last game you want to happen to, but the last game of the tournament, and he's having his most difficult tournament. Just not finding the pocket. Hey, you never know. maybe that'll be a little pick me up.
Well, he certainly needs a double now. That's for sure.
Oh, this
ninth frame
just to keep his average. Yeah,
it has to be a strike. This next ball
has to be. Scott, on the other hand, is put himself in position to increase his average and put up a nice number for a the C division. 133.34 is a nice number. Be close to 1,600. Probably low 16s.
Yeah, for reference, the C division winner in last year's Eastern Classic put up a score of 1630.
There you go. So he's a 160 to get there. He throws one more right here, and he's got a shot. And it gave it a little tap, but not quite enough. 2-pin fought.
Tremendously close, but he's hit his 133, so every pin he accrues going forward is extra. That's going to bounce his average even higher.
So he can get to 160 without the triple. So he's in position now to get to probably 160 with another mark. Puts him at that 1630 threshold. Nice number.
Chuck Paris, meanwhile, is hanging around. Top 10 last year, required a 142.75 average. He's at 142.3 with 7 frames remaining in his final game. So still a lot to play for here for Paris. Very nice ball.
Be simultaneous as Paris attempts his spare and Louth attempts his. He's thrown the same ball pretty much this entire game.
And that ended up being a 9 box for Paris. He chopped that 2-pinner and missed the lone remaining pin on his third ball.
And a nice spare by Chris on that, but he already knows the most he can get to this game is a 149. So the best he can do is keep that average exactly at 149. I'm sorry.
143.
Yeah, that's my screen's a little fuzzy, but it's a 143, the most he can get to. I have to remember to look at that with my left eye. That's the one with the cataract surgery. I can see up close. Scott Charwood with a 6 load. If he can tie these together, it gives him a possibility of throwing a 161. And he does just that. So 9 load here puts him exactly at the number you just mentioned, Brian, 1630, and something to shoot for the rest of the C bowlers bowling in this tournament. Oh, or you could do that.
Yikes.
Oh, Lord. So, not a 160, in the 150s.
Meanwhile, Chuck Paris finishing up his 5th frame with a 9. He's at 156 through 5. So there's a little pressure on him heading into his final 5 frames to maintain his projected top 10 pace.
So Charwood finished with a 152. Final average on the tournament of 135.2, which is actually 5th place overall on the current leaderboard. As we know, 130 bowlers from now, it probably won't be, but I can even say probably. That's not even a possibility.
2nd place in the C division last year was 1611 as a point of reference.
Yeah,
first place was 1630. So Scott Charwood is right in the in between there, right?
Yeah, he put himself in the picture.
I think
for
we'll
C
be
bowlers. C bowlers, what average, Brian? Do you know the breakout? Is it 120?
120 and below, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. So,
But here's the man of the moment, Chris Louth. Critical frame.
man, he is just lost the head pin. Very light on the head pin there, and it's an 8 load, and the 5-7. Overall, a good tournament, but a obviously disappointing finish for Chris this morning. Needs one of these to pick up a 130 game. And he does. So that'll knock him down to probably about a 147-ish, 146.6.
120, Pat? Was that the total?
Chris had a 1. I think it's a 120.
120. All right. So that puts him at 1759, a 146.6 average for his 12 games. All right. And for reference, 1759, Chris Louth's total would have placed 6th in last year's Eastern Classic. So likely not enough, but like you said, potential for that first weekend prize. So we'll turn our attention now to Chuck Paris. We're tracking him to see if he has a projected top 10 finish. We're projecting a 142.75 average is necessary to place in the top 10. Paris is currently at a 142.3 clip. However, he has struggled thus far this game, only at, I believe, 66 through 6, but we'll need some confirmation on that score. Actually, why don't we go back to lanes 1 and 2, where Matt Kruger is finishing up his 12th game. 132.6 average through 11, and he's looking to improve upon that just a little bit. Cuts through the middle. Back to Chuck Paris. Couldn't quite see. It looks like a strike for him. So that'd be a 137 for Matt Kruger. So he ends his day. With 1596. That leaves him with a 133.0 average. A little below expectations for the man who last year put up the top score on the first weekend of the Eastern Classic. So now our attention is just with Chuck Paris in this first group of bowlers in this tournament. Just waiting on some confirmation of his score here. Chuck Paris, we have him with 86 on a strike through 7 frames. So Paris, 3 frames remaining. That's all that's left for this first group here. After this group finishes, we'll be taking a short break, but we'll have some classic action to play for you while the groups are shifting at the Lucky Strike lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. So yep, so our score was correct. So again, we're tracking Chuck Paris, the lone remaining bowler we're tracking in Group 1. Projecting 142.75 for a top 10 finish. Another 9 there for Paris. So still a little work to do here to maintain that top 10 pace. Oh, sorry, it wasn't 9. It was 8, as a matter of fact. He had double wood there. It's challenging to see from our vantage point. So that puts him at 104 through 8. He's gonna need 2 marks in his last 2 frames if he wants a chance at the top 10. Again, if you're just joining us, this is just the very beginning of our journey through the 93rd annual Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. This is our first group of bowlers this morning. A second group will be arriving shortly to bowl their second block of 6 games. We have 3 more groups who will hit the lanes next weekend to bowl their 12 games. We have a total of 108 bowlers signed up for next weekend. There are still 12 spots remaining. So if you're interested in giving this tournament a try, there's still time. But time is running out for Chuck Paris. He's going to need a mark in this 9th frame to keep the chance of a top 10 finish alive. That's just what he needed. He's been putting that ball right in there all day. I think one of his struggles though has been it's been just a little heavy, a little too much. So I've seen some chops right through the head pin, but he's been all over that head pin all day. So if you're looking for some more information on how to sign up for the Eastern Classic, if you're interested in one of those 12 remaining places, you can go to ctduckpins.com. There's a flyer available with the instructions that you need in order to sign up. So again, if you're looking to take one of those 12 remaining places for next weekend's running of this event, ctduckpins.com is the place to go for the information. And our next group comes in at 1 o'clock. They might start a little bit early, but as we wrap things up here for group 1, don't go away. This live stream will continue. During the break between groups, we will have some classic footage to share with you. So go make your lunch, grab a snack, grab a drink, and be back here by 1 o'clock for the exciting group 2. We'll be tracking Mark Parker, John Esposito, Bobby Dunick. But right now we're tracking Chuck Paris, 114 plus through 9. We're projecting that he needs somewhere in the 140s to have a chance at a top 10 finish. So that means he's going to need a mark here in the 10th. Here we go. Chuck Paris, lane 19. Well, looked good to me, but you see him shaking his head there, right? Just as puzzled as we are. I think he went to go for it. A little wide of that 5 pin. So it looks like he's going to come up a little short of the projected top 10. Again, you've got lots of bowlers coming in next weekend, over 100. So we can't say with any certainty after this weekend where these bowlers will place. but we can make some estimates based on the results of previous years. Well, let's get Chuck Paris's 129 on our leaderboard. And then we'll start to wrap things up here, Pat, for group number 1. Yeah, that certainly was the case. I think Scott Charwood for me was the story of this morning. He goes 152, 161, 138, 123, 135, 152 for a 1622 total for a C division bowler. Could be a winning score. Could be a second place score in the C division, but we're projecting that he'll finish somewhere in the top 2 based on previous year's results. All right, Pat, let's wrap things up here for Group 1 at the 93rd Eastern Classic, live on Duckpin TV. We're going to leave you for just about a half an hour here with some classic Duckpin bowling shows, but make sure you stay tuned to the stream and you're back by 1 o'clock at the latest, because that's when Group 2 will hit the lanes here at Lucky Strike in Mansfield, Connecticut.
We've done a little bowling here while we were away in order to catch up on time. We're in the 3rd frame right now. Dennis Ponce with a 34 and Bobby Dunnick at 38. So it's pretty close to this point.
4-point lead by Bob Dunnick over Dennis Ponce right now in the 3rd frame. Match number 2.
Bobby's missed 2 spares already. 7 and a 10.
This is a very difficult spare to make.
If I think there's one spare in this game that is the toughest to make, this is it right here.
This points in the direction of a very, very close match.
You want a piece of the 6-man.
Exactly.
You got too much of it. If you get it a little lighter, you allow it to go into the 10, come bouncing back off the wall and across. You get the fly back across to the 5 and then over to hopefully over to the 7. It's tricky. Okay.
I think Dennis shakes out the demons.
He
When
what?
he first gets up, he shakes out all the demons.
Demons.
1 3 pocket, 7 pin standing.
Great ball. Dennis takes an awful lot of kidding in his leagues and whatnot about his slow play, but you know, if you can get the results that Dennis Ponce is getting bowling that way, it's hard to criticize.
He takes a lot of ribbon on the pro tour too.
Oh yeah, I know. He gives it back too.
but it's good-natured ripping.
Good guy.
I hear a lot of it all the time.
That's his ball.
There's a good ball. Want to see how he did it? Let's watch it again.
There he is, back into the 1-3 pocket.
Yes.
That's the most effective.
Yeah.
Get that slight cross.
Right across the room.
Head pin comes back, takes out the 5.
Right, the same pitch. Same pitch as Dennis, just with 1-3 pocket.
It's on Bobby's side.